And thank you for attending. I'm Assemblyman Joseph Saladino, the Nassau County Conference Leader in the New York State Assembly. I am joined by my colleagues because we are here for the parents, for the schools, and for the students of our state on the issue of the Common Core. I'm surrounded by the leaders on this issue who have gotten out in front way before anyone else in Albany to make sure we bring the needed changes to the Common Core mandate. And our issue today is that while there are a few days left in the Assembly session in Albany, we are demanding passage of the Apple Plan, which is sponsored by Assemblyman Ed Ra and all of us, to bring the needed changes to this unfunded mandate to fix the problems and to serve the people of this state. The Assembly sponsor of the Apple Plan is Assemblyman Ed Ra. We're also joined by Assemblyman Al Graff of Suffolk County, Assemblyman Michael Montesano of Nassau County, Assemblyman David McDonough of Nassau County, Assemblyman Tom McKevitt, who is our floor leader in the New York State Assembly, and Assemblyman Michael Fitzpatrick, one of the senior members of the Suffolk County Conference in the New York State Assembly. Just recently, the Apple Plan was brought before the Education Committee, where it was held. With very few days left, we realize the importance of this, and we are demanding that this plan be passed. This conference has held hearings in Nassau and Suffolk County where we have listened to a plethora of parents, teachers, superintendents, all those concerned parties, giving us the information needed to compile that plan. And then Assemblyman Ed Ra and Assemblyman Al Graff traveled the state to make a very comprehensive plan that will work and will be the solution. We've heard the public, we've put together the legislation, and we demand action in passing the Apple Plan. And now to give us more details, the sponsor, the lead sponsor of the Apple Plan, and the ranking Republican of the New York State Assembly Education Committee, Assemblyman Ed Ra.
Thank you very much, Joe. I just want to start with just a little bit of background, because when we come up with legislative initiatives, a lot of the question starts, okay, how do we come up with an idea? And I have always believed the most important thing we can do, whatever the policy area is talk to the people who are dealing with that issue on a day-to-day basis. So like Joe said, we held forums in Nassau and Suffolk. We held 9 others all over New York State. Al Graff, who's a member of the Education Committee with me, joined me on all of those forums. Dave McDonough, who's also a member of the Education Committee, attended several of them as well. And we heard from parents, we heard from teachers, we heard from grandparents, we heard from people that are experts in early childhood development, and we heard from some students themselves. And they expressed a lot of concerns about what was going on within their classrooms, both in terms of how the current state testing scheme is affecting them, and how the changes in curriculum are affecting them. We took that information, we brought it back to Albany, myself and Al sat down with some of our Education Committee staff, and we put together a report, and the information on that report is available in the news release. And from that report, we developed the Apple Plan. The Apple Plan is a series of recommendations. It stands for Achieving Pupil Preparedness and Learning Excellence. And it's a series of recommendations dealing both with the current Common Core changes, but also our educational system as a whole. It deals with things ranging from funding issues to issues with special education and English language learners, to the Common Core and state testing, all the way to looking at alternate pathways to high school graduation, which is something the Regents have been looking at for a number of years and have not yet acted on, and it's something that has been talked about a lot within our educational system. So the particular bill we're talking about today, though, is A8844. In the Assembly, it has many co-sponsors, 40-some-odd co-sponsors, including everybody that's standing up here today. It has bipartisan support, and it also has bipartisan support in the New York State Senate. It's sponsored by Senator Lee Zeldin, and there are co-sponsors really from New York City, from suburban areas of the state, Democrats, Republicans, Independent, Democratic Caucus people, so it has gotten a lot of support. A week ago, this past Tuesday, we had a meeting of the Education Committee, and this bill was on the agenda to be held in committee. There were parents from all over the state that came up to be at that committee meeting. And really what we felt that action meant that day was that we were shutting down the conversation on this issue. Many of our colleagues, unfortunately, felt that things that were done in this year's state budget had addressed this issue. We're here to say it did not address the issue. Many of the things we did in the budget, some of them dealing with the data sharing type side of things, were very important. But a lot of the so-called solutions dealt with issues that were really New York City issues, not necessarily issues that were going on in many of our districts. And when you have this past spring over 22,000 students on Long Island having refused or opted out of these state tests, something is wrong. We need to sit down and talk to the parents and really take meaningful action. This is an area that, we always have to tread lightly on because we have a Board of Regents that's supposed to be responsible for our education system, but they have not made the changes that our parents are asking for. The commission put together by Governor Cuomo, unfortunately, has not recommended or made the changes that the people are asking for, and in fact, they put forth a preliminary report and originally said that they're probably not doing anything else. So we're here to say today that the New York State Assembly should be the leaders on this issue. So what does A8844 do? Basically, it stops the mandate of the Common Core curriculum and the associated state tests until the 2016-2017 school year. In the meantime, a panel of education experts, ranging from parents, teachers, administrators, people that deal with special needs children, people that deal with English language learners, would come together and look at how these changes, how this testing, how these curriculum changes are affecting students all over New York State, with a particular focus on how this is affecting special needs students and what modifications need to be made for them. How is it affecting English language learners? What modifications to the curriculum and the testing need to be made for them? How is it affecting urban areas? How is it affecting suburban areas? How is it affecting the big cities? These are all questions that needed to be asked before we implemented this, and unfortunately we are where we are because these questions were not asked at the time. So really we think that this is somewhat of a no-nonsense solution. It's really a matter of getting these people together, letting them consider this, and also letting them think about whether this is the direction we want to continue down. They'll have to make an affirmative decision to do that, or do they want to look at some of the other standards that have come across in recent years. It recently came to light that there had been a commission put together before Common Core that was revamping the New York State educational standards, which would have basically given us the best standards in the nation. New York would have been leading. Instead, the federal government came up with the Race to the Top program, and states saw the Common Core as the easiest way to comply with what the federal government was asking of them so that they could get Race to the Top monies. Those monies have proved to be really more of a liability for our districts who are spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to get what in many cases is between $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 per district. It doesn't make financial sense, and it's a mandate that our districts are dealing with, and we think that this solution will help New York lead the way, push back a little bit at the federal government, but make sure that we are delivering the best education possible to our students in New York. I'm going to turn it back over to Joe, but I thank my colleagues for their continued hard work on this and for coming together to stand up for the parents and the students of New York State. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed Robb. Another man who has taken a leadership position, along with Assemblyman Robb, traveling the state at these hearings from Suffolk County, member of the Education Committee, Assemblyman Al Graff.
Thank you, Joe. I just want to thank Ed Robb for his leadership when it came to this topic. We traveled around the state, and I have a degree in elementary education, and one of the things I did was look at the curriculum that they put forward. And the curriculum is so out of whack. Not only is it out of whack, if you actually look at the curriculum, the school there's things missing. The last test that was just given out, the math test, there were 3 pages missing out of the test. I mean, if you wanted to destroy public education, this is the way that I would go about it. They're not taking into consideration kids with learning disabilities. They're not taking into consideration kids with English as a second language. Everybody learns differently. Some people are textual learners, some people learn visually, some people learn by an auditory, hearing it over and over again. What this program does right now is this is a one-size-fits-none program, if you honestly look at it. And I mean, the horror stories that we heard when we were out there, they have kids that are in special education that may be in, chronologically, they're in, say, 5th grade. Developmentally, they're in 1st grade. And the governor's answer and the state's answer to this was, we'll just give them more time on the test. But they're testing them on the 5th grade level. You can give them all the time that you want. They're never going to be able to complete this. And the one story that sticks in my mind was of a special education teacher who talked about, she had one student, all of her students sitting there looking for guidance, she couldn't help them. That's not how special education works. And she had one little boy that was sitting there in the corner, and apparently he wasn't doing his work. And she walked over to investigate what was going on. And he was so frustrated, and he wanted to do so well on the test for his teacher, that he was actually stabbing himself with a pencil. And as she was testifying, she started to cry. She had to take a break. And what she said was, I went over, I took the pencil out of his hand. I told him it wasn't important, it didn't matter. And that's the first time that I felt like a teacher again. Okay?